World War II, he graduated from St. Thomas High School in Ann Arbor, and like many, joined the service. His pick was the Marine Corps. On Monday, February 19th, 1945, he and a group of 63,000 Marines landed on an island called Iwo Jima. Their orders were to capture Mount Suribachi. On February 23rd, after many casualties, this group did just that. The first flag raising was about 10:30 a.m. The second flag raising, which we all have learned to recognize, was about 1 hour later. This man's squad raised that flag. During his tour of duty, he received 2 Purple Hearts and also a Bronze Star for having saved 2 sailors from drowning. I feel very proud and honored to introduce to you Joe Rodriguez.
Kind words, Bill. I don't want to tell you a lot of war stories, but I want to say this: I didn't win the war by myself. I had a few people that helped me, a couple of sailors, and some dog faces. But get to the real point why I'm here. I'm going to make a speech, and it's going to take about maybe 2 hours. So, but what I would like to say is this: I'm proud of being an American, and I'm proud to be here. So I want to say to Mr. Toastmaster, guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, and brother veterans, it's with a deep sense of pride and a privilege to be here today, on a day when America takes time out to pay tribute to the young men who gave their life so you and I can be free. Free to worship as we please, disagree with our government and our neighbors. America has paid a tremendous price for that freedom. It has since the beginning of time. Yet too many Americans today take our freedom for granted. Ask them and they'll tell you it was given to us by the constitutional right, or because we're Americans. No. Go to Arlington Cemetery, or any military cemetery across this nation, to see the thousands and thousands of white crosses. That's the price we pay for our freedom, and we're still paying. If you don't believe me, go to any VA hospital, and you'll see. There are men there from World War I, from II, from Korea, from Vietnam, from Lebanon. I don't care what war you fought in, because wars are wars, and dying is dying. We always must remember this. My father said, out of sight, out of mind. But we cannot let this happen. We must not let this happen. I say to you, those of us who know the horrors of war must always remember those young men we left behind. Because in forgetting those young men, it meant that they have died in vain. I'd like to say this, if I may. Some 40 years ago, when I kneel down to say my prayers at night, I say 2 special prayers. I think of the 90 young men that I served with and I left behind. I thank them for what they did. And I ask God to watch over their families and all the servicemen. Secondly, I thank my mother and father. I thank my mother and father for coming to this country. They came here some 62 years ago, like most immigrants of their time, looking for an opportunity, not a handout, but an opportunity. My father got a job on the railroad tracks. And if you're familiar with Ann Arbor, we lived on the corner of Glen and Fuller. Our home was a boxcar. I remember that boxcar. I remember watching my dad take newspapers and plug the coals to keep the coal from coming in. Our bed was made of straw. Our sheets, our curtains, and our pillowcases were made of flour sacks. Our furniture was orange grapes. And I remember my mother and father arguing. And my mother would say, why? Why did you come to this God-forsaken country when it's so cold and no one here speaks Spanish? But my dad would say, but woman, I have an opportunity, I have a job, and we're eating regular. But most of all, my children can get an education, and they'll be free to come and go as they wish. My dad never stopped dreaming of going back to Mexico, but every time he saved enough money, my mother seemed to get pregnant. She did that about 4 or 5 times, but that's what happens when you don't have TV to entertain you. It wasn't long when the war drums began to beat, and it was obvious that we were going to go to war. My dad gathered us all together, and he said, sons, this is not our war. We're not even American citizens. We don't have to fight. We can go to Mexico. But my oldest brother, Salvador, he said, Dad, I like this country. I want to stay here. But if you stay, you may be killed. Then my dad thought a little bit. He says, yes, son. Yes, this country is worth fighting for. Slowly, all of us marched off to war, to every branch of the service. My mother and father were lucky. They were luckier than most American families because we all came home. Wounded and crippled, but we came home. Came home to a father and mother who now were American citizens. And you should have seen how proud my dad was. God, he was proud. He was proud of being an American, proud of us. Let no one ever talk about America because you'd have to fight him. I remember in the 60s when the young people took our flag and drug it on the ground, spit on it, and burned it. My dad would get out in the street and he'd holler, only in America could you do this, only in America. Any other country, they would shoot you. Sure, we have a lot of faults. Sure, this country's not perfect, he would say. But neither are you. He loved this country. And I want to say this to these young people around us. It's not corny to love this country. It's not corny to be proud to be an American. And it's not corny to love this flag as I do. If you're looking for, if you young people are looking for heroes, look no farther. They're here. They're all around you. They're wearing those funny looking hats. Those are the people who fought for your freedom. We must never forget that. I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank you because I love this country, and God bless it, and God bless you all.